Hi, Ito. This is for you. I can print out these sheets as well. So I thought that maybe you might help us explore the idea of how we make priorities and kind of when we're presented with kind of the opportunity to do an act and we can't do that act for everyone, we need to kind of make choices. And how do we prioritize kind of one relationship over another? The first activity that, again, you could do if you want was to kind of look at I have a couple of descriptions of some characters that your kind of job is you have to make a decision of who to donate your $100 to. And just for this exercise, I'm kind of saying you're not allowed to give the money to a little bit to everyone. You have to give one person the stuff. So how do you make that priority? And the reason for doing this activity is it will, like, once people think about it, who they're going to give the money to, it will help us understand kind of how they prioritize kind of who gets or who needs. And interestingly enough, the way Rashi kind of understands prioritization is he looks at this piece of Torah here from Shemot, which talks about lending money. When you lend money to my people, my poor with you, do not lend with interest. And Rashi looks very closely at, and I'm sure he's bringing kind of this like Jewish understanding. It's not just like Rashi going rogue, but um, Rashi's kind of looking at these words uh, and how they're listed here. My people, my poor with you, and saying, oh, from these words we can actually make a certain set of priorities. And so Rashi's comment is ami v'goy, my people and other people. If I need to choose, it's my people first. Ami kodam, ani v'ashir, poor people and rich people, and ani first. Um, um, Ani irecha v'ani ir acheret, poor of your ani irecha kod min. So they're looking at my poor with you, the poor that's kind of with you here. And so a question that you might want to ask everyone is kind of what is the variable that's most important um, when thinking about not prioritization. We should really write here when thinking about who do prioritize about who we prioritize. Um, the variable that's most important to him is kind of closeness to yourself, right? You start with kind of the most inner circle, and then you kind of move outward, and then kind of asking the group if they actually agree. Like, would you have as your variable the person who's most needy, the person who and then asking the question of why is it that the Jewish priority is saying start with kind of your inner circle and then go outward. What's that all about? And I think that could generate some interesting discussion. After that, and just kind of, I think here are kind of the answers there. And we won't necessarily show that. Okay. After that, we have a Mishnah in Bava Metzia, and I purposely kind of left out the answers because I thought maybe people could try to figure out what the answers is. And so the first is the case of Hashavat Evedad. If you find something, you have to return it. But what if you found your own kind of stuff and your father's stuff or your parents' stuff, and you couldn't actually return both at the same time? Whose stuff gets returned first? And obviously, the idea is like if I don't take both of them, whatever I've left there, someone else might steal, or someone right there might be that might be problematic. And so we have this scenario, and I want people to kind of I left and again the blank so people can think about it. And then we have a second scenario is not his father, but now we're talking about my own stuff I've lost and my teacher's stuff I've lost. Who stuff do I need to return first? And then the third case is my my father's stuff and my teacher's stuff, whose stuff gets returned first. And then we have an explanation of kind of why that is, and I thought people could kind of try to figure out what their kind of why they're making the priorities they're making. And then there's one exception to that prioritization rule. And so then I kind of left those out because I thought that without having the answers, we could kind of discuss them. And of course, we have kind of our answers in the next piece. I didn't put them in English, but in Hebrew. So if one finds his lost item and his father's lost item, the lost item of his own lost item, meaning your own stuff, takes precedent. If you find lost item of your teacher and yourself, still your own stuff takes precedent. If you find, however, your father's stuff and your teacher's stuff, it's your teacher's stuff that actually takes precedent over your parent. And then we give a next little explanation why. They're saying actually because because his father brought him into this world, and his teacher teaches him wisdom of Torah and brings him in the world to the world of come. So basically, what is this doing? It's basically saying we're giving priority to the person actually who does more for you. And then, but there's one exception to this. If your father is also wise, meaning if your father is also someone who kind of fulfills that role of teacher to you, then your father is actually goes before your teacher. So, and then, so that's kind of what the Mishnah says. And I think certainly talking about what priorities they're making, right? They're saying start with yourself. But if I need to decide outside of myself, the primary variable that I'm kind of holding is either it's the person that helps me navigate kind of not just life but the world to come, or the person who teaches me in some way. And so that's the Mishnah, and then we're going to go to the Gemara and to the Talmud. And I guess what I want you to kind of try to understand is see what the relationship is between the Mishnah and the Talmud, as far as is the Talmud supporting the ideas of the Mishnah? Is the Talmud trying to kind of step back from the Mishnah and saying actually that's a little too harsh, we don't agree with it that way? Or is it kind of saying actually we think it's actually even more strict than what the Mishnah is saying? So that's what I kind of want everyone to do, and try to kind of understanding how kind of the next generation of Jewish kind of understanders of the Mishnah, how they understand it. So the first thing they're doing is they have a question, right? The Gemara is saying, Nahane Mile, where did you actually even get the idea that I have priority over over everyone else, that I shouldn't first give to others, I first actually deal with myself? And they bring up the verse in the Torah, there shall be no needy among you. And from that verse, they're getting the idea that I take precedent. I think it might be interesting to kind of ask everyone how it is that they figured that out. And it's probably about these words, among you. Um, Among you, meaning that you create a society where you're not needy, and then you then deal with the people who are needy. But then we have a critique about this. Rav Yehuda said that Rav said if you do this to others, others will do the same thing to you when you need help. Like there's a danger of prioritizing that yourself, even if the Torah gives you an allowance to do so, that you are not creating kind of a web of dependency. I help you when you need, and you're going to help me when I need. Okay, and then the next part of the Gemara really dives into this idea um, of of defining the word teacher, because of course the real crux of the second part of this, if I have my teacher and my parent, who am I giving my who am I taking who's taking priority? It's the teacher over the parent, and that kind of rubs some of us the wrong way. Asking probably why would be kind of interesting as well. But then we get three answers to helping define the word teacher, and what I want you to see is how does each answer kind of change the idea of teachers. So idea number one is teachers, the person who taught her wisdom, not the person who taught her Torah or Mishnah. So kind of the normal stuff that we would teach actually isn't considered a teacher. A lot of people might do that, but we don't consider that person a teacher. A teacher is someone who goes kind of the extra step. That's your teacher. And that kind of limits. So Rabbi Meir is saying not everyone can be that kind of teacher, but if you have it, that teacher is the most important in your life. And now Rabbi Yehuda says, actually, no, a teacher is the person who taught her the majority of her knowledge. So this is interesting. So it's saying, I don't care what it is that's taught. This is not about quality, but is about quantity. And you can see if people can try to understand that. And it's also saying that if it's the person that taught majority, there can only be one teacher. So in most cases, when you're going to see your parent stuff and a teacher stuff, that might be a teacher, but not the teacher, right? So Rav Yehuda is saying if it's the teacher, then that person takes priority. But just normal teachers don't, right? So there's one teacher at TVT, right? The one who kind of did your who kind of spoke about you at graduation, like Mr. B, like he would be the teacher, whereas everyone else is just a teacher. By the way, idea number one by Rabbi Meir, he's saying it's the quality of what is taught, meaning and not quantity, meaning a lot of people could be take on that definition of teacher. Rabbi Yehuda is lowering the bar and saying it's about quantity, but it's actually only one person that is that person. And then Rav Yossi goes even further in kind of lowering kind of the definition, or egalitarianize, basically expanding the definition in a ways which could apply to everyone, even a parent, right? Even if he lit up the eyes, even if that teacher lit up your eyes with one Mishnah, that is his teacher. Meaning, you don't have to do that much to get the label teacher. Just one kind of teaching thing. And to me, this is very interesting, right? Because it's basically saying um, our priority was what was someone who taught us, but now basically what we're saying is, you know what, the it's not how much that person taught. It's not the quantity or quality of what that person taught that gives them precedent over others. It is that they taught. It is that there is this teacher student relationship, and because that exists, that kind of relationship, that is what gives priority over everything else. Okay, and so basically I bring this I find this a really interesting piece of Torah and Mishnah and Talmud, because it talks about kind of how we prioritize relationships, and we see the Talmud making moves to say basically there are more relationships that are important in your life than you give credit for. And those relationships, what makes them important is almost a kind of a coming together and a kind of dissemination of some type of knowledge. That knowledge here is power, and knowledge and the kind of knowledge, the giving forth of knowledge, is what creates really interesting relations. And obviously, it's because this is Shavuot night, kind of we're asking about what is the relationship that God creates with the Jewish people. And I think by giving the Torah and saying, I am giving you the knowledge, right? And this could be a question we ask at the end, basically saying that if the criteria for teacher is anyone who enlightens, right? Anyone who lights the eye, like this is what enlightenment means, right? Anyone who helps someone kind of understand themselves, understand the world, understand society better, then that is really the true teacher of all teachers. All right, that's it. I hope I'll print this stuff out for you as well, and you can guide us in this learning piece.